Kia, welcome to Canterbury Politics, Politics from Canterbury, where three random individuals talk about politics from Canterbury. We are deep in the heart of Ireland. I'm Kevin, I'm a history major. We've got Liam, who's a history major, and we've got Jared, who's also a history major. So there's a little bit of history to do with it. Today we're going to kick off. With Labour launched their slogan, "In It For You," and we're going to focus group this small focus group. 1, 2, 3 people. Liam, in it for you. Jared, in it for you. Come back to you. Yeah, in it for you.
Reds are in it for us, eh? Labour's in it for you. He's just in it so he can get votes from you, man. That's what that means.
It's called democracy. Back to
Manifest.
As far as slogans go, it's always difficult to know what to say to a slogan because all it is a sentiment, and focus groups that Labour run will pick up sentiments, positive sentiments about the leader that they have. They'll try and impose that sentiment onto a billboard in the form of a slogan. In it for you, as much as I don't like slogans, it's pretty run-of-the-mill. There's no such thing as a good slogan in my view.
Okay, I thought with the in it for you, basically this week Chris Hipkins ruled out a wealth tax, and I thought it could have been aimed at those 46,000 New Zealanders that earn more than $5 million a year. That could have been hit with that wealth tax. I thought in it for you could have stood for I'm in it for the 1%, I'm in it for the elite. Or is that just being cynical?
Well, he's in it for winning the election, definitely, as any leader worth their salt is. And if you have an election which is predicted to be as tight as this one is between the centre-left and the centre-right, any kind of controversial policy that puts off the middle. And it's not about who it affects. That's what people don't understand about the wealth tax debate. It's about how people in the middle feel about where they might be in 10 years' time. They aspire to be wealthy. And they will see this not so much as an attack on them today, but an attack on any aspiration they have towards the future to be in that 1%, to be captured by that.
No, hang on. I'll come to Jared on this one. Is that more American style? It's like those, basically where people vote completely against the economic interests, but because they think, one day I could be a multimillionaire. That is the American dream. I'm earning $5 an hour cleaning toilets, but one day with my American dream, I'll be a $5 million, I have my $10 million McMansion. Is that where we're going in New Zealand politics? And what do you think of the wealth tax announcement this week, Jared? You're an aspirational guy. You want to be a multimillionaire. You'll be pretty pleased.
I would be happy to take a couple $1 million and go hide away somewhere and just live holistically. That'd be really nice. But my dad's middle class. He rakes in about 140k a year and running his own personal small business. I don't see him making $5 million or getting up to the point where he's making $5 million a year, and so I don't think he would necessarily be thinking in sort of the terms you've described. He's thinking more about how much he's getting taxed right now, and at the end of the day, at the end of the tax year, after he's made 140k off his own back, his own work, his own expertise, a manager at KFC can earn more money than him after tax.
Okay,
that's a bit crooked.
Let's just get back to the thing.
Crooked.
It was a tax switcheroo was announced this week. Basically, work was done on a tax switcheroo, and that was all kibosh this week. I'm just throwing out some ideas as a devil's advocate. Don't believe anything I say. I'm the devil's advocate. This is a very politically neutral podcast. We are, in fact...
Non-aligned.
We're non-aligned.
Non-aligned.
I've gone back in time and I've stopped voting, like much of the press gallery. So I'm just going to go through some of the statement of the Prime Minister, Mr. Hipkins. He said that we simply didn't have a mandate to implement those changes. I just want to focus on that. They didn't have a mandate to implement those changes. When do you ever have a mandate? Do you have to get 60% in New Zealand politics? Is 51% plus the Greens plus Te Pāti Māori? Or do you have to explicitly campaign on every single thing, then get over 50%? What are the rules? Are the rules?
If it's controversial, if it's big, if it's contentious, you don't campaign on it and then you do it, you have a problem. If it's minor, if people don't care or don't notice it, or it benefits most people, you don't need to campaign on it. A mandate is all about having a mandate to change something substantial that a lot of people might not like. If you go to an election, for example, take the 2011 election. Most of the country didn't want asset sales. But because National was so far ahead in the polls, they said, look, an election win is equivalent to a mandate to do this. We're not going to have a referendum on it because they know they'd lose it. Interestingly, if they treated the flag referendum in the same way, they might have gotten away with that. If they'd gone to 2014 and said, look, we're not going to have a referendum on the flag, but we will take an election victory as a mandate to do this thing that we know you don't want us to do. It's an interesting sort of conundrum in some ways.
Okay, I'm just going back to something because me and Jared were talking. Me and Big Jared, sorry, that's sizes. Me and Jared were talking about the prescription charges. It's big and tall, by the way, big and tall, not anything else. We were talking about the prescription charges. Labor didn't explicitly campaign on getting rid of the prescription charges. So what you're saying is because they were just giving, even with our tax dollars, they're just giving. It's okay.
It's a goodie. It's fine. No one needs to warn you about a goodie. There's no danger in having a goodie now and then, and $5 off prescription charges is very much a goodie. You don't need to get permission for that.
Does anyone know how many people were affected by, like, basically they said, it's really affecting me financially and that might stop me taking medicine?
I think it was, according to pharmacies, there was a group in the tens of thousands. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Well, according to the research I looked at, it was
46,000
under 5%.
Oh,
It was under 5%. So why was that such a goodie, chucking $700 million in, where, under 10%? So you could have chucked $70 million at targeted. Why is that such a good policy?
well, if you want to means test it, you get into administration costs. So it costs more to run because you have to make sure that people who aren't entitled to get it don't get it. And you also ensure less uptake, because the one thing we know is that, if you have a benefit or an allowance which is universal, the people who most need it have a high level of uptake. If you introduce any kind of barrier, people start to feel a sense of sort of not guilt, but they feel self-conscious about taking something up that technically they're entitled to, but they have to sort of demonstrate they're in a financially vulnerable enough position to need it. So if you make something universal, just over the counter straight away, people don't have that sense of sort of unease about it.
Well, there was some research that went behind it that was highly quoted. The research itself said the research papers were started looking at a control group and a non-control group. That particular research was started just before COVID, which I would have thought was quite problematic. The research itself said it probably didn't have enough people to be that statistically accurate. Now, I think it's not a bad policy, personally, or devil's advocate. Jared, what do you think? Basically, the $5 charge, or taking off the $5 charge, came the same time as the petrol subsidy went back on, and bus fares, half-price bus fares throughout blanket disappeared.
So we traded cheaper fuel and cheaper public transportation for.
Well, it was a switcheroo. It was a government switcheroo where they said, "Hey, we're taking with this hand, but here you are."
Me personally, on the subject, I don't take any medication whatsoever. I mean, I take antihistamines. Yeah, swear by them. Thank you to whoever made those. But I don't take medicine, so it doesn't affect me at all. And I don't know a lot of people who are heavily medicated either. Like, how heavily medicated do you have to be before this is like a really good policy for you?
Well, the policy, number one, the first tranche was basically people that take antibiotics. I think that was the biggie. The second lot was people that take, was it psychiatric? Basically, it was quite handy if you needed a lot of Prozac because you're a bit depressed about the lack of money in New Zealand, a bit depressed about depression in New Zealand. Probably quite handy. Anyway, let's just. It wasn't just a big day for Chris Hipkins. We're going to keep this tight. It was a big day for Chris Luxon, the other Chris. He launched his pothole policy. No potholes aren't going to wait 48 hours. We're going to do it in 24 hours. Massive day. Him and Simeon Brown, two people together with branded jackets. At least Chris Hipkins had a crowd. Showing diversity. It was just two guys somewhere out in East Tamaki, I believe.
Two blokes chilling on the road talking about car stuff.
Looking casual. No Wellington suits. They're out of the Beltway.
They were out of the Beltway.
As they love to keep reminding people.
They're on the back streets.
What do we think of little Simeon? Sorry, not being sizist. I'm going to stop the sizist stuff. As I
What the
said,
hell, Kevin?
yeah, no.
Make me
Anyway,
feel subconscious.
my apologies. What do we think about Simeon Brown, their transport guy? And they're basically saying we're getting rid of all this crazy stuff about zero toll. We don't care if a few more people die because you're driving fast, but we're going to fix your potholes. Magic. This is what I want from a government. A government that says we don't care if we have a few more people dying because we're not really worried about getting zero road tolls, but we are going to fix your potholes better. So if you're driving and one of your relatives dies in a car accident, but at least you'll be driving smoother. That's what I thought.
But what about pothole-related car accidents, Kevin?
Yeah, I guess the swings and roundabouts. I didn't really seem to think there had been that much thought put into it, but I don't know.
Well, if you write something down on a bit of paper and say that, I expect you to do this in 24 hours instead of 48 hours, it doesn't happen magically like that. I mean, if only you could just write something down on a bit of paper and instantly it became a reality. You actually have to have some kind of idea about how the people who are going out to fix the potholes do their job twice as fast. This is a doubling of productivity.
Or figure out what slows them down.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, are they going 48 hours at the moment because they're being encouraged to do this slowly? They're being sort of on a go slow, do it twice as slowly as you would normally
There's a
do?
lack of staff, lack of expertise, there's a lack of location.
I just don't think anyone cares, quite frankly. But there's a bit boring. I'm just going to finish with Winston Peters. Just a quick focus group. Winston Peters, is he back?
Winnie Pete's.
Is he back? Quickly.
I'm going to stick my neck out and say no. David Seymour's stolen too many of his voters.
Jared?
I would say that Winston Peters has been in the game for a long time, and I wouldn't be surprised if he could work out some way to make himself relevant, because he seems to always attach himself to whatever popular sentiment he can find, protesters outside of Parliament, etc. He was like all about. He was there being all happy with them.
Maori names.
Yeah.
I think Winston Peters is back, and I
Just
just
rides those popular waves.
explain why I think he's back. He's back because he offends people, and obviously he's offended some journalists at the Sunday Star Times, and they're at 5 pages about basically accusing him of, letting conspiracy theorists off a little bit or attracting conspiracy theorists.
Free publicity.
That was 5 pages of free publicity.
Publicity.
So nice work there. Stuff, good on you. You've assisted lifting Winston's profile yet again. So I'm picking Winston Peters is easily back, and we need to start thinking about National Act and New Zealand first, because they've absolutely ruled Labour out. Labour Greens, Te Pāti Māori. Anyway, with that, kia ora from Ireland.
Ciao.